so much for joining us. Just time for a quick recap of the week. And tonight we're going to focus on a couple of stories out of Britain. First, Brexit, which I believe is short for brain exit. The official word for when everything that makes sense goes out the window and everyone is just stupid all the time. Britain was supposed to have left the EU by Friday, but the day before the deadline, this happened.
The UK is heading for a Halloween Brexit after the EU extended the deadline for withdrawal until October the 31st.
Halloween Brexit? Look, Brexit is plenty scary enough without adding Halloween to it. It's like we found out there was a meteor rapidly approaching Earth and named it Weinstein. It's overkill. It's complete overkill at that point. But it is true, the Brexit deadline has been delayed until October. Now, what will they do with that extra time? Who knows? Because it's hard to imagine that unsolvable problems like how to create a hard border with Ireland without sparking sectarian violence will suddenly be solved within 6 months. And many British people seem exhausted by this extension.
I imagine in 6 months' time we'll probably be in the same place we're at now, another stalemate where it's either going to get extended another 6 months or who knows.
Oh, God, another 6 months talking about Brexit.
Yeah, I can see how she feels, or at least I could, before Brexit interviews started featuring people being casually eaten by parrots when they talk. I would trade another 18 months of Brexit to find out more about that man, like how did he become a Yankees fan? And is that his parrot? Because if it isn't, that's the calmest I've seen someone stage during a random televised parrot attack. This wasn't even the first time that the deadline has been pushed back. Britain was supposed to leave on March 29th, and to hear some Brexit supporters tell it, that's when it did happen.
29th of March should have been the day we leave, and in my eyes, we've left.
But it's not, and you haven't.
So what? In my eyes, we have. Today is our Independence Day, and whether we have it or not, we're celebrating it.
Wait. Hold on. If all that matters to Brexit supporters is what happens in their eyes, we may have just found a solution. Cancel Brexit, but allow everyone to say that it happened if it makes them feel better. That way, no devastating economic consequences, and Brexit supporters get to live happily ever after in their own personal United Kingdom of the imagination. But that wasn't the only big news out of Britain this week. There was also news concerning Julian Assange, the most controversial Australian export since Vegemite. This week saw a major development.
Julian Assange arrested.
Julian Assange, now with a beard, carried out of the Ecuadorian embassy by London's Metropolitan Police.
That bedraggled beard, lengthy hair.
Looking tired, looking older, significantly much older.
Looking a very different man than the one who went into that embassy some 7 years ago.
That's a weird tone to take on a story that's this important. Yes, his arrest sparks a difficult debate about the efficacy of journalistic protections in the age of cyber espionage, but look how bad he looks. He looks like a peeled potato rolled in spider webs. He looks like Kenneth Branagh's ghost. He looks like Gandalf fucked his stick. We're having fun. We're having fun, aren't we? But look, this is a big deal. Julian Assange has now been kicked out of the Ecuadorian embassy after spending 7 years there, and part of the reason they may have wanted him out may have been that he did not make life easy for his hosts.
There have been reports for some time that Assange was had outlived his welcome there in the embassy for all sorts of reasons, including that his cat had been making a mess and that he was skateboarding in the halls and stealing Wi-Fi.
Oh, that's not even all. The ambassador also said that Assange's indoor soccer games had destroyed embassy equipment and the government had to require him to start cleaning his bathroom. And look, at some point in our lives, we've all lived with someone like this, and we've all wished that we could have British police carry them out of our building like a hastily rolled carpet. And look, it is easy to dislike Julian Assange. He first fled to the embassy to escape extradition to Sweden on rape charges he denies. And alongside the valuable information that WikiLeaks has helped release, they've also recklessly published the sensitive personal data of hundreds of ordinary people, potentially putting lives at risk. And that's not even getting into the fact that WikiLeaks' publication of hacked emails in 2016 helped elect Trump president. So you are allowed not to like him, but America's current attempts to extradite him hang on a specific charge that many press advocates find unsettling.
The U.S. Justice Department has charged him with conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. Authorities are accusing Assange of conspiring to crack a password in order to obtain classified government documents.
Now, that charge stems from his correspondence with Chelsea Manning before the publication of classified documents in 2010. And on its face, it currently seems more than a little flimsy. prompting the Committee to Protect Journalists to call it troubling for press freedom, because the indictment's language seems to criminalise a broad range of legally protected and common journalistic activity. And while it is still early at this point, and we don't know what else Assange might be charged with, or even whether the UK will extradite him at all, this story is worrying for a number of reasons. One, because journalistic freedoms may be under threat. And two, unfortunately, in order to protect them, we may be forced to utter the one phrase in the English language scarier than Halloween Brexit. And that's, I'm really sorry, everyone, but it might actually be time to defend Julian Assange. And now, this.
And now, why would you say that?
Amazon earned $92 million last quarter.
You know why? Because they sell sex toys, and Walmart can't or won't sell sex toys. Amazon does. A friend of mine works in the warehouse. He says they sell a ton of them.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you how it is.
Now, are you smelling me?
Well, I was sniffing you a little bit. You smell good.
Hooters girl Rachel Bashing is here live. How do I know?
I just touched her.
The weather is kind of like Harvey Weinstein's assaulting us today with the heat and the temperatures.
Okay, Charlie, I'm gonna sit here and just hang out with my new best friend, Bettina.
I think you two should get a hotel room or something. That's a lot of action going on over there.
Everybody wants a yoga girl, right, Jason?
That's right.
And I know you want me to toss your salad too, don't you?
All right, on that
note. Moving on. Our main story tonight concerns drugs. On one hand, America's war on them has been a complete catastrophe, but on the other hand, it did give us this photo of Nancy Reagan sitting on Mr. T's lap, so it wasn't a complete loss. And by the way, I pity the fool that didn't think they were going to fuck after that. Specifically, we're going to talk about opioids. And if you're thinking, hold on, didn't you do a show on this before? Yeah, we did one 2.5 years ago. But tonight we're going to do an update for a couple of key reasons. First, the epidemic is very much ongoing. In 2017, opioid overdoses killed more than 47,000 Americans. And second, since then, we've learned a lot more about many of the companies involved, and some of it's been amazing. For instance, a criminal case involving executives from the drug maker Insys unearthed a rap video allegedly made to motivate their sales force to go out and sell a painkiller containing the highly addictive drug fentanyl. Take a look.
My delivery is giving me 38% of this industry plus my bioavailability. I'm built to last, y'all can't get rid of me. How'd even be sick of me? But attacking me is actually practically just sillies comparing acting me. Y'all tickle me. This ain't no fight at all. And if you're trying to ball, I'll substitute you like it was xylitol. High beast.
Yes, beast. But let's just stop for a moment there to unpack the line, if you're trying to ball, I'll substitute you like a xylitol. That is a reference to the key ingredient in sugar-free gum. It is astonishingly, almost impossibly lame. It is genuinely difficult to come up with a rap that is lamer than that, and I'll show you. Splash rules everything around me. Hanks get the mermaid. Daryl Hannah, y'all. Now, is that lame? Is that lame? Yes, it is. Is it lamer than the Insys video? I think it's hard for you to make that case. And that rap video was just the tip of the iceberg in terms of new information now coming out through numerous court cases. So tonight, let's pull a few of these new revelations together and look at what we've learned about how the first wave of the opioid crisis began. Because it's a story of how major companies acted wildly irresponsibly, skirted any meaningful consequences, and for the most part, avoided public scrutiny. Let's start with drug distributors. These are the big three. They're the companies responsible for getting drugs to pharmacies and hospitals. They're supposed to alert authorities if they notice suspicious orders of controlled substances. But for a sense of just how badly they failed to do that, look at Kermit, West Virginia. Named, of course, because it's where Kermit the Frog lives with his secret second family. Oh, that's right. He's in a throuple with two salamanders named Francois and Gary, and they are very, very happy. It was never you, Miss Piggy. It was him. The amount of opioids sent to Kermit, a town of just 400 people, was utterly ridiculous.
This undercover video of Kermit's main pharmacy shows scores of people picking up prescriptions inside and at the drive-through window. More than 3 million doses of hydrocodone were ordered by a Kermit pharmacist, James Woolley, in 1 year.
It's true. 3 million doses to a town of 400 people. That's around 7,500 pills for every resident in Kermit. And just to be clear, we mean every resident in Kermit, not every resident in Kermit. Kermit is a top, I'll have you know. Not that that is any of your business. But those sorts of figures clearly should have caught the attention of distributors. In fact, the largest one, McKesson, alone shipped 5 million doses of opioids to Kermit in just 2 years. And that's just one example of McKesson's reckless behaviour. And the problem is, at no point were they effectively deterred. In 2008, the DEA alleged that McKesson had failed to control its controlled substances. McKesson agreed to pay a $13 million fine, that's all, without admitting wrongdoing, and also promised to do better by implementing a controlled substances monitoring programme. But that programme emphatically did not work. In fact, a DEA official later wrote their bad acts had continued and escalated to a level of egregiousness not seen before. Because of course they did. You can't put McKesson in charge of monitoring McKesson. If the bears in your zoo get out at night and start mauling the other animals, you don't deputise one of the bears to monitor the situation. And I know what you're thinking, but John, I've already bought him a little sheriff's outfit to wear, and I think he'd look great in it. And yes, of course he would, but at the end of the day, bears are gonna bear. It's just in their nature. And again, before you say, well, I've spent quite a bit of money designing a custom-made sheriff's badge just for him, don't you think the bear will recognise the gravitas of that symbol and feel compelled to grow and change his bear ways in some way? No, I don't, because bears respect nothing. They think the importance that we place on symbols and status makes us weak. They value nothing but blood and strength. And I know what you're going to say now. Is there anything I can do? The answer is, of course not, because while you were talking, Sheriff Bear mauled you to death. You're dead now. Goodbye. Why are we still talking about this? The point is, McKesson monitoring itself clearly did not work, because in 2017 they wound up agreeing to another fine, bigger this time, $150 million this time, which, yes, sounds like a lot, until you realise that that is less than 1/1000th of their revenue for 1 year. And while today McKesson says that they've improved their monitoring systems, for realsies this time, pinky promise, and they argue that they weren't the ones setting the demand for opioids at any point, even the DEA agent in charge of their case thought that their settlement was absurd.
How do you settle? How do you say it's okay? Just, here, write this check this time and close this place for a little bit. Sign this piece of paper. How do you do that? No. Put him in jail.
He's right. Put him in jail! And honestly, I'd watch an entire show that is just that guy telling me where to put things. McKesson executives, put him in jail! These carrots, put him in soup! This group of corgis, put him in tiny boots! They should be in boots! But that is the big problem here. For companies involved in the opioid crisis, fines just became the cost of doing business. And throughout this crisis, it has been difficult to find any real accountability for the people involved. And there may be no more frustrating example of that than Purdue Pharma, the manufacturer behind OxyContin, the drug that arguably kick-started this crisis. Purdue famously aggressively marketed OxyContin to doctors as a less addictive painkiller that could be used to treat common conditions like backaches and knee pain, which was obviously untrue. It would be like using cocaine for a toothache, which, incidentally, back in the 1800s, people actually did. What an idea that was. My tooth hurt this morning, but I took some medicine, and now I'm really fucking psyched about 20 different business ideas. I'm going to write a screenplay. I know it's the 1800s. Purdue is owned by members of the Sackler family. Collectively, they're worth an estimated $13 billion, which has enabled them to proudly slap their name on some truly impressive monuments to other people's talent. The Sackler name is on parts of the Met, the Louvre, the Museum of Natural History, the National Gallery in London, the Royal College of Art, an institute at Yale, a library at Oxford, and the Sackler Crossing at the Royal Botanic Gardens. Not bad for a family whose very name sounds like a Hamburglar-like villain that steals testicles. Oh, no! The Sackler came in the middle of the night and now my penis is shivering. The Sacklers love putting their names on things. Although, until very recently, they've been miraculously good at keeping their name off the opioid crisis. But that is now changing with protests like this.
In New York City this weekend, protesters flooded the Guggenheim Museum. They dropped fake prescription slips from the upper walkway, angry that the museum takes big donations from the Sackler family, which has been accused of engineering the opioid epidemic.
Wow. And look, I know this isn't the point, but just spare a thought there for the Guggenheim janitor who has to clean all that up. Dennis didn't take millions from the pharmaceutical industry. Dennis gets $15 an hour and maybe the occasional chance to masturbate on a Cézanne. Look, hey, I didn't say he was a good janitor. I just said you should think about him. The reason for this change in public perception is a dawning realisation of just how deeply some of the Sacklers were involved. Because unlike most second-generation heirs to a family fortune, some were very hands-on. Richard Sackler worked at Purdue throughout the crisis, serving as president from 1999 to 2003, and served on the board along with 7 other family members. And now, thanks to a number of lawsuits filed by various states, we're getting glimpses of the depth of Richard's involvement. Massachusetts alleges that Richard Sackler at one point demanded to be sent into the field with sales reps on visits to doctors. In fact, his micromanagement was apparently so extreme that Purdue's VP of Sales and Marketing wrote to the CEO, "Anything you can do to reduce the direct contact of Richard into the organisation is appreciated." And going by some of his statements, that micromanagement was in service of a pretty clear purpose.
According to newly filed court documents, when OxyContin was first released, Richard Sackler, Purdue's former president and son of the company founder, is quoted saying at a company event that the launch would be followed by a blizzard of prescriptions.
Amazingly, the full quote is actually worse. He calls it a blizzard of prescriptions that will bury the competition, and then goes on to say the blizzard will be so deep, dense and white. And look, as a tagline for Frozen 2, that's pretty good. But it's troubling when applied to addictive fucking painkillers. And Richard Sackler's glib tone continued, even as Purdue began to see the consequences of the drugs that they were pushing.
At the dawn of the opioid epidemic, when 59 deaths were reported in a single state, Purdue's president wrote, quote, "This is not too bad. Could have been far worse."
Wow. That is both callous and also completely besides the point. Because the phrase, "it could have been worse," can be applied to literally anything. In fact, one of the only things it cannot apply to is Richard Sackler's statement regarding those 59 deaths. And I have to say, I'm just not sure the full horror of that comment comes across when you just hear a guy read it out on TV. And the problem is, we have to use clips like that because there are no clips of Richard Sackler. He never does interviews. Even that photo is one of only a small handful we could find. And think of how remarkable that is in and of itself. He's an incredibly rich man. And it's genuinely easier to find multiple image options of birds standing on turtles or babies that look like Wallace Shawn. And let's all agree, those babies look a lot like Wallace Shawn. And this invisibility feels deliberate. And whether it is or not, it has definitely been convenient for Richard Sackler because it's honestly hard to tell the story of his time at Purdue without any video. There is only so long that anyone will listen to someone at a desk reading from court documents. Trust me, I know that. I'm painfully aware of that. So tonight we've actually done something unusual. To help you get the emotional impact of Richard Sackler's actual words, we got an actor to play him. So let's try that last quote again. Richard Sackler, a news article about OxyContin addiction says it's caused 59 deaths in a single state. How do you respond?
That's not too bad. It could have been far worse.
That's right. We got Michael fucking Keaton. And I'll tell you why. Because when you're casting for a shadowy heir to a vast fortune who doesn't like to be in the limelight, you go Batman. And look, that helps a little bit, right? Here, let's try another one. As evidence mounted that Oxy was causing widespread addiction, Sackler urged the company to publicly blame those who were addicted. Michael Keaton, what did he actually write?
We have to hammer on the abusers in every way possible. They are the culprits and the problem. They are reckless criminals.
Sackler genuinely wrote that. And not only does that come off as malicious and cold-hearted, it also doesn't even make any sense. He's furious at the people who are part of the problem, but the people he's angry at helped make him incredibly rich. You don't see Adam Levine releasing a song condemning horny middle-aged women, because that would be hypocritical. Who do you think made you who you are, Adam? It's your just dangerous enough for suburban moms to masturbate to energy that got you where you are today. Show some respect to your base, son. Now, for legal reasons, I have to tell you, the Sacklers and Purdue insist the family didn't cause the opioid crisis and vigorously deny the claims in the lawsuits that we've mentioned, saying that Richard Sackler's comments have been taken out of context with, quotes, cherry-picked from among tens of millions of other emails and business documents. But two things about that, because first, whenever they've added context, it hasn't really helped much. For instance, their explanation for Sackler saying the news of 59 deaths was not too bad was that he was merely commenting about the nature of recent press coverage, which is not better in any meaningful way whatsoever. As for that blizzard of prescriptions line, they've claimed the full context for that is that his remarks were an allusion to his delayed arrival at that event due to the well-known blizzard of 1996, which again, in no way exonerates him. Oh, hey guys, it's not like Richard was recklessly and callously anticipating OxyContin's popularity while it was sunny out. It was snowing. Hello! And the thing is, for a family that complains about a lack of context, they have fought tirelessly to withhold it because time and time again, they've settled cases on the condition that evidence will be sealed and unavailable to the public. In fact, a few years back, Purdue settled a lawsuit with Kentucky on the condition that the state AG destroy 17 million pages of documents. 17 million pages, that's an actual blizzard of context that they did not want anyone to see. And you can kind of see why, because just the glimpses of information that we've seen recently resulted in that Guggenheim protest, which in turn led to the museum deciding to stop taking funding from the Sacklers. And the Guggenheim is not the only institution that's cutting ties.
The Sacklers and London's National Portrait Gallery have mutually agreed to call off a planned $1.3 million donation.
It's true, the National Portrait Gallery bailed on the Sacklers too, and I know that. As punishments go, getting to keep $1.3 million doesn't sound all that fucking bad. But keep in mind that these people have infinite money and seem to enjoy nothing more than using it to purchase social status. So, not getting to put their name on things may be a real punishment to them. But I would argue that that should only be half of it. The other half is having to put their name on the opioid crisis that they fought so hard to distance themselves from. And that public accounting is starting to become possible, despite the fact that Richard Sackler has barely appeared in public. And there's actually a tantalising development here, because a few weeks ago, the transcript of a video deposition that Richard Sackler gave in that Kentucky case, the case, remember, where 17 million documents were destroyed, leaked to ProPublica and Stat News. This is it, right here. This is the thing that Purdue really did not want anyone to see. And there is some damning stuff in here. The really effective thing would be to see the video of this deposition, but Purdue is fighting ferociously hard to keep it under seal, which benefits them. As you've seen tonight, newscasters reading quotes will only get you so far. But we have the deposition, and you should know Michael Keaton is not the only actor we got to play Richard Sackler. In fact, we got multiple actors to read parts of his deposition word for word, and who better to convey the arrogance of an early exchange about Sackler's involvement in Purdue than someone responsible for playing one of the greatest drug dealers in the history of television?
On July 30th of 2014, were you a director of Purdue Pharma, Inc.?
Not that I'm aware.
This is an affidavit filed in the Southern District of West Virginia. And does that appear to be your name?
That does.
And it's dated July 30, 2014. It says, Declaration of Dr. Richard S. Sackler. I am a director of Purdue Pharma, Inc., the general partner of Purdue Pharma, LP. I've held this position since 1990.
If that's what it says, then that's what it says.
Wow. Richard Sackler came off like a real dick there, right? Certainly more so than if I'd just read that to you. And since we had Bryan Cranston, we didn't stop there, because this deposition also contains an excerpt of a speech that Sackler gave when OxyContin was launched, bragging about how quickly Purdue got the FDA to approve it. So we had him go full Walter White on that one, too.
This didn't just happen. It was a deftly coordinated, planned event that took dozens of workers years of effort to succeed. The most demanding new drug approval package for any analgesic product ever submitted didn't languish at the agency. Unlike the years that other filings linger at FDA, this product was approved in 11 months, 14 days. Our previous best approval time for other products was measured in years, not months.
God, I felt that in my fucking bones. And look, sure, we could have stopped there. Those two actors were already incredible, but then we remembered this is HBO. And if we want someone to read the shit out of another email that Richard Sackler wrote, this one characterising his devotion to OxyContin, we have access to the cast of another iconic drug drama. So brace yourselves, everyone, because Omar coming.
You won't believe how committed I am to make OxyContin a huge success. It is almost that I've dedicated my life to it.
Indeed. And look, the only problem here is all of these actors are pretty cool, and Richard Sackler decidedly is not. And so, to embody the fact that he responded, "I don't know," more than 100 times during his deposition, we asked Richard Kind to read just a selection of them.
How much money has Purdue Frederick or Purdue Pharma made off the sale of OxyContin?
I don't know.
Do you know how much the Sackler family has made off the sale of OxyContin?
I don't know.
Who's Lydia Johnson?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
How many Purdue entities are there?
I don't know.
Pretty effective, right? And look, Richard Sackler might say, hey, that's not fair. I didn't sound like that, but we don't know if he sounded like that if we can't see the tape, which is why he should absolutely allow it to be released. But if he doesn't, we can only imagine what was going on during his deposition. For instance, maybe he was sloppily eating a turkey sandwich during this actual exchange about OxyContin addiction.
Have you made any effort, or as we sit here today, do you know how many patients who took OxyContin in Kentucky became dependent or addicted?
No.
Do you believe that an inappropriate number of patients or an excessive number of patients who took OxyContin in Kentucky became addicted or dependent?
No.
Do you know, or has Purdue made any effort to ascertain how many people who were started on OxyContin wound up becoming dependent and moving on to heroin at some point?
No.
Why would he eat a sandwich during such a serious deposition? I mean, yes, maybe he didn't, but it would be so easy for Richard Sackler to prove that he didn't. The point is, until he does that, we've uploaded a bunch of videos of 4 different Richard Sacklers reading extracts from his emails and deposition to sacklergallery.com, which I'm sure they'll enjoy. They love having their names on fucking galleries. We've also linked to various state lawsuits at the site so that you can read them for yourself. The point here is, Richard Sackler's deposition should not be something that Purdue gets to bury, like it's buried so many other things over the years. So please, go to the website and watch and use the clips as you see fit. So if Richard Sackler wanted context, then guess what? This is it. It is a blizzard of context. Deep, dense, and white. You're welcome, Sackler family. That's our show. Thanks so much for watching. See you next week. Good night.
The launch of OxyContin tablets will be followed by a blizzard of prescriptions that will bury the competition. The prescription blizzard will be so deep, dense, and white. I don't know.